Hello everyone, welcome to This Day. Thank you for joining us. It is Monday, February 27th. Now we have a few meetings to tell you about today. We've got one at 9:30 this morning. It is the third Architectural Controls and Standards Committee meeting. And then at 1:30 this afternoon, we have the GRF Security and Community Access meeting, and that will be in the boardroom. Now, on our show today, we have Donna Rain Shostak, and she is here on behalf of Third Mutual, and she's going to go over all of the highlights from their meeting that they just had. And then we have Renew Ketamine Infusion with two doctors, Dr. Tanya Dahl and Dr. Justin Yannick, and they're going to tell us all about how they use ketamine to help so many people with depression and a variety of other ailments that just Western tradition medicine hasn't worked. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our weather. Well, we are still looking at some rainy skies. We are looking at rain today, this afternoon, probably sometime in the evening. 55-47, tomorrow showers again, 56-44, rain 53-40, and then finally we have a sunny day on Thursday, 59-42, and then mostly sunny on Friday, 60-44. Also, just a reminder, golf range is going to be closed for a couple of different days. Starting today, it is going to be closed to begin the soil preparation. As you can see, they're going to be doing some maintenance on it all the way up until it opens August 17th. So if you do plan to hit balls, make sure you look at what's up in the village. They'll keep you apprised of all the things that are going on. All right, when we come back, we will talk with Donna, so stay tuned.
Achieve a level of comfort you've never known before. The Daydreamer will take you through smooth movements and guide you effortlessly into your favorite positions. Adjust the power pillow for ideal support for your head and neck. This and our positioning technology allows for infinite relaxation. Lay back in zero gravity while watching TV and put your body and mind at ease. Lift your spirits and find your favorite daydream. Contact your local Golden retailer today.
Looking for a change of scenery? You don't have to play golf to enjoy all that 19 Restaurant and Lounge has to offer. From a delicious breakfast menu to our delectable lunch and dinner specials. At 19 Restaurant and Lounge, there is something for everyone. Relax with your friends and family and take in the beautiful view from our spacious patio. Or enjoy a cocktail and appetizer in our lounge. 19 Restaurant and Lounge is a great place to socialize, enjoy a meal, or simply take in the view. Join us 7 days a week and experience Laguna Woods' exclusive dining experience.
Thank you for coming back. We have Donna Rain Shostak here on behalf of Third Mutual. Welcome back. Nice to see you.
Good to see you this morning.
And you know, you guys had a doozy of a meeting, and I bless all of your hearts, you know, for staying there as long as you do to get things done. So we appreciate that. So of course, you're going to give us some brief highlights today of what had happened at the meeting. So thank you.
Yes, and I've chosen just a few, but the ones that I think are of most interest to our members,
Already.
And that's really what's important today.
Okay, fantastic. And so you have some things that have been approved.
Yes.
Okay.
And among the many items that were up for approval, two of those that we approved. First of all, related to central air conditioning and those big, heavy units that have to be outside. And when this community was first built, I don't know if anybody had air conditioning centrally. And it was nice and cool in the summertime, so it wasn't needed. But over the years, that has increased. And so there was something that had to be done about that. The units were being put up on the roofs,
Right.
which was getting a little bit crowded. But more than that, a lot of activity, difficult to service them. The servicemen have to climb up there and go back down for other parts, et cetera. So we approved just a revision in the air conditioning permitting, et cetera. And that is, those units will be, whenever possible, and hopefully in most cases possible, placed on the ground floor. So
okay.
Servicing will be easier. It decreases the impact on roofs from people walking, shaking machinery, et cetera. And also, given what's happening these days, leave some room for solar panels in the future if we need it. So,
that's a good idea.
So that was
Okay.
actually, it was
Okay.
pretty exciting. And second, which is very exciting actually, has to do with our discretionary investments. And discretionary investments is another way of saying our reserve fund. And in strict accordance with the legal requirements that we have from the state, they are invested in instruments that are backed by the federal government.
Right.
And our Treasury bills were maturing on the 23rd of February, just recently, and the decision was made with advice from those who are far more informed than I,
Yes.
with advice to something we call laddering them, so 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, giving us access to the funds if we need them, and the ability to move with interest rates depending upon what they are doing and maximize our return
Right.
without risk.
Right.
Because that's safety is the most important thing.
Well, exactly, and that is, you're right, and with the way interest rates are right now, that's a great advantage because they're paying pretty well.
They're paying very well, and what's really exciting, and the second point on the slide that you have up there, what's really exciting is they matured on February 23rd. All indications are that the Federal Reserve is going to do at least one more increase, and that would happen, if it does, on March 22nd. And we don't want to miss that.
Okay.
So what the board voted to do, and that was very important, was when this matured on the 23rd, put those in a treasury for a month.
Oh.
That we would be able to, the day after the reserve meeting, reinvest all of it in that laddered approach.
Okay.
And hopefully not only pick up an extra quarter of a point or so, which is anticipated, so we could maximize our return. But in addition, during that month, they will be earning over 4% interest.
Great.
So that was very exciting to see that happen. And
that's
I thought that our members would enjoy hearing that.
Well, it's a good time to invest in those types of secure things, right, as you mentioned. So.
Yes.
Perfect.
And
okay.
Next, this was an approval, but it was really more of a clarification.
Okay.
The pet policy was clarified. It was a bit confusing for people, and so the primary points on that were that dogs, if they're older than 4 months, they must be licensed with the city of Laguna Woods, have a current rabies vaccination, and evidence of that on their collar. There are little tags they can get. Cats, on the other hand, which tend to be indoor pets and not go out, can optionally be licensed.
Okay.
But if they're licensed, that evidence of rabies vaccine must also be there. So that was, again, more of a clarification. We always had a pet policy,
Sure.
but sometimes in reading it, it wasn't as clear as we would have liked it.
You know, sometimes people do walk their cats.
Yes.
So
yes,
do they have to
do.
have the same licensing as a dog at this time? Or
Well,
you don't think so?
that's probably still gray. There are so few cats that are walked.
I know.
And I've noticed I was out one day and someone was walking their cat in one of the strollers that we often see dogs in, but this one, because a cat might be tempted to go chasing something, had the screen around it that was zipped up. And so
how funny
cat
is
was in
that?
its little walking house.
I
So
love it.
again, if that's the way the cat is walked, then but again, it's optional depending upon how the cat lives.
All right, perfect,
Okay.
perfect.
And then sometimes it's as important what we don't do as what we do. When we intend to do something and we hear concerns from residents, sometimes it's more important to defer any decision.
Okay.
And on something that turned out to be of concern for residents, we did just that.
Okay.
And that is in regard to the potential for washer-dryer installations in the Garden Villa buildings. Lots of people have been asking about them for years. We understand that people purchasing here, new residents, have said, what? You know, I can't have a unit in my apartment. So the thought was this was going to be a really great thing. And it was heavily researched. And of course, people don't necessarily know the research that went into it. What was proposed is very limited. It's not washers and dryers. You notice on the slide it says washer/dryer. It's a single unit.
Oh.
Units designed for apartments. Very, very low noise. In fact, I have been told less noise than a dishwasher makes.
Okay.
And that's concerning. People were saying, oh, these machines are going to be going, the noise factor will be terrible.
Sure.
And the bigger concern of leaks. Well, it turns out that these machines, these washer-dryer combinations, are designed for apartments and have greater safety regarding leaks than our dishwashers do.
Okay.
But if people don't know that, it's hard to make a decision about whether or
Right.
not you think it's a good idea.
Right.
So since there were several residents who came and expressed concern, and it was important to get the proper information out. And the Garden Villa Association will be meeting on March 9th. So in this case, instead of putting it on the 28 days for consideration to be passed in 28, we deferred that completely. It'll be on the agenda for the Garden Villa Association. And those are the folks who really need to understand, know, and then they can think about what would be best. So the only possible downside is they might have to get a bigger room for that Garden Villa meeting.
Well, yeah, I mean, if people are concerned. So in the Garden Villa Manors, there are spaces for this?
It would be usually that when those are done, they're in a cabinet.
Okay.
They're really not that
So that is
big.
definitely interesting how they have cabinets where they're like self-contained.
It's one unit, it's self-contained, and it's interesting. We have an RV, we have a motorhome, and years ago we had one. We were living in our motorhome 7 months out of the year, so we had a washer-dryer.
Right.
Motorhomes are not very big, and the noise factor from that machine 25 years ago was almost non-existent.
Oh, interesting.
So in 25 years, I'm assuming they've even improved that.
Right.
And leaks again, those were put in a vehicle that moved down bouncing roads and didn't leak.
Okay.
So I think that people need to hear what is the real potential for leaks, the real potential for noise. And so, as I say, I think one of the most important things that day was we listened to the concerns and said, let's get the education. So people from maintenance and construction will be at that Garden Villa meeting to give the information.
Oh, so that's going to be on the 9th, March
of March.
9th. Now, will they have pictures and have some sort of, so people can actually see?
I don't know what they're going to do, but they're pretty good in their preparations when they know they're doing it to explain
visual
it.
always such a good thing, then people can see it, see how big it is, see how it works.
Yeah, and so what's really important is getting the information out and not, sometimes we get concerned and it turns out we may not have had the right information to begin with. So that's probably, in a nutshell,
I love it.
5.5 hours worth of meeting.
Man, wouldn't it be nice if you could just get the Cliff Notes every time rather than sitting through the 5 hours? But nonetheless, I'm glad
that's
you're
what we're
able to.
there for.
Exactly.
And it's important. And our residents have a voice and they need to express that voice.
Well, right, and I'm sure that they all appreciate the fact that you went ahead and you're going to do the due diligence on the research that is needed to be able to bring those units to the Garden
and actually,
Villas.
the research apparently has been done, and that was why it was proposed to be put on, on our 28-day notice. But apparently, the information and what was contained in the research didn't get out as it should have.
I see.
So the research was done. There was, very well thought out, in fact.
Got it.
But if you don't get the information out,
people aren't going to know, that is for sure. All right, so let's just recap that one to make sure everybody knows that the next meeting on March 9th, it's the Garden Villa Manors meeting that will address this particular issue.
Yes, and are the Garden Villa meetings televised? This one maybe should be, otherwise there'll never be a building big enough to hold.
Well, you know what? I'm not sure, so we'll have to double check on that.
Or at least maybe
and we usually let everybody know about the meetings, when they'll be, and that kind of thing. So before that,
will be important. But important for people to know. Yes, the research has been done.
Got it.
Apparently quieter and safer from leaks than dishwashers, which everybody has.
Yeah.
It's getting the information out to our members.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I really do appreciate you coming in.
Always a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Lisa, for having me.
Have a great week. All right, if you want more information about what we've just discussed, you can always send an email to generalmanager@vmsinc.org, and it will be sent to the appropriate person. And we will keep you informed about the March 9th meeting that will be coming up for the Garden Villas. We'll be right back. Welcome back, where we have Dr. Tanya Dahl and Dr. Justin Yannick here on behalf of Renew Ketamine Infusion. Well, welcome both of you to the show. Nice to meet you.
Thank you
Thanks for having us.
So before we get into what ketamine infusion is and pretty much what your facility is all about, tell me a little bit about yourselves.
So yeah, my name is Dr. Justin Yannick. I trained in emergency medicine actually with Dr. Dahl in residency at UC Irvine, and then I did a pain fellowship at Harvard Mass General Hospital. And then ultimately now I practice both emergency medicine, pain medicine, and then we've started this clinic, Renew Ketamine Infusion.
All right, fantastic. And how about you?
I'm Dr. Tanya Dahl. Thanks for having us. I trained at UC Irvine in emergency medicine, board certified. Also practicing at Mission Hospital in the emergency department, so serving the community in many ways.
Okay, so you're at Mission now, serving at ER.
Correct.
Okay, great.
Yep.
So let's talk a little about really why ketamine works, what it is, and how you guys monitor your patients. So, for instance, ketamine I've seen can be used for a lot of different things, and it's been around for a really long time.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what it is made from.
Sure. So it's a synthetic molecule. It was developed in the 60s, FDA approved in 1970, and it was originally approved as an anesthetic. And it's a very safe anesthetic in the sense that it preserves people's ability to breathe and have a blood pressure. So this was widely used in the battlefield, actually, in the Vietnam War, as a way to basically safely transfer victims of war from the battlefield back to a medic tent and have them not suffer from their injuries in the meantime.
Okay.
Dr. Dahl and myself use this routinely in the emergency department to do procedural sedation, to sedate, like, let's say a 2-year-old that has a laceration that we have to sew up. You give them some ketamine, it dissociates them, and then you can ultimately do the suture repair. So it's been used in multiple indications. For mental health purposes and chronic pain, last 20 years it's been studied, and there's an enormous amount of literature to prove its efficacy in treating those conditions.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that you are still working in the ER, so
Correct.
you're seeing the usage of that today.
Correct.
But one other thing that you may have seen over the last several years is that there's some people who may suffer from depression and isolation because of COVID. So, for instance, one thing that I was wondering is that if you have a patient who is going to die, and then the loved one can't be with that patient, what are you seeing there, and how ketamine could possibly help someone like that?
Yeah, so the COVID-19 pandemic was hard, obviously, on everybody in different ways. And being an emergency provider, I not only had to witness the terrible deaths of people that are dying from COVID-19, people that are dying alone, but also having to help treat patients that were coming in with really severe depression. People were being isolated, people were lonely, people were scared, people were turning to substances like drugs and alcohol. And so these are people that were on lots of medications, maybe had tried multiple antidepressants in the past, and nothing was working for them. And so there really were 2 pandemics. There was the COVID-19 pandemic and the mental health crisis that went along with it. And so here at Renew Ketamine Infusion, one of the reasons why I decided to build this business with Dr. Yannick is I wanted to not only be able to help people in the acute setting, but also be able to help the other people that were suffering in silence and were just not finding relief.
Okay. So you've told us what it is from. Now, what does it actually do to help people with depression, isolation, and a variety of other things that you can treat with it?
Yeah, so its mechanism of action is, to simplify it basically, is when you have chronic suffering, whether that's from pain or whether that's from depression, we know anatomically that you have a reduction in the amount of synapses in your brain. Ketamine, through its action in the brain, can actually lead to something called neuroplasticity, which is an increase in the amount of synapses and the effectiveness that these synapses communicate with each other. And so that's a part of how ketamine works to treat these conditions, basically to allow your brain to process stimuli in a different way, in a kind of to somewhat oversimplify it. An equally important part of it, though, is the psychotherapy side of things. And so ketamine opens you up to what the therapist will have to tell you in terms of ways to act moving forward based off of previous events that you've had.
Okay.
And it can be a very effective modality to combine the two things.
Does that work like a hypnosis? Because I guess if you were falling under a hypnosis, then they would tell you something and then you somehow, not consciously knowing. Does it work something like that or no?
It's an interesting question, and there's been some studies that have gone into people, like say, for example, that have PTSD.
Right.
If they actively go into the ketamine infusion, trying to work through whatever that prior trauma was,
Right.
is it more effective in the long term? And there is some evidence to prove that it is. And really how it works is, with trauma therapy, you're not designed to forget the traumatic event. It's about acknowledging that it happened, but not letting it control your life. And
Okay.
ketamine is able to separate those two things, basically.
Okay. So do you have an on-site therapist, a psychotherapist?
So we work with a therapist who went through a year-long training on ketamine-assisted psychotherapy.
Okay.
So she's specialty trained. She works virtually with patients.
All right.
So what you can expect is you come into the clinic, it's just you and us and our RN, our team, and the treatment's really all about you and making this everything that you need it to be, bringing you into a comfortable, tranquil, spa-like environment. And so you're going to come in and we're going to talk to you briefly, and then we'll set you up with the in the recliner, just as comfortable as possible, with an eye shade and noise canceling earphones, playing kind of spa-like music. And so yeah, that's kind of what you can expect for the treatment when you come into the clinic. And then you will meet with the psychotherapist virtually the next day.
Okay, so so you obviously need records from the individual that's coming in. So if they wanted the doctor to transfer the records over, would that be something they should do, or do you have them just answer questions that's your own?
Yeah, it's a combination of both. So first we have an initial free consultation, so it's no charge to the patient. We speak to them for 30 minutes to 45 minutes, getting a medical history from them,
Okay.
making sure they're safe for ketamine, that it would be indicated for them. And then if we feel like we would need outside records, our electronic health record system would allow us to basically request records ourselves. So it makes it very easy for the patient, so they don't have to go about trying to collect all this stuff for us. We can just get it directly from their office.
Perfect. That just makes it a lot easier for
Yeah.
everybody, for sure. So let's talk about who is a good candidate and who isn't a good candidate.
Yeah, so basically ketamine, we're not using this as a first-line treatment. It's for people that have tried and failed other modalities. Typically, let's say for depression, you've tried and failed 2 or 3 antidepressants, you've done talk therapy, and you're not getting substantial relief, or you're having intolerable side effects. Ketamine would then be indicated for you. People that it would not be indicated for are patients that have a history of epilepsy, so seizure disorder, or patients that have a history of schizophrenia or mania. There's other small relative contraindications, but that's part of that initial consultation, is us going over that expansive list.
Okay.
But those are really the 2 major ones, seizure disorder and history of schizophrenia.
So there was something on the list that I actually wanted to ask you about. It's addictions. So what kind
Yeah.
of addictions are we talking about? Drugs and alcohol?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I mean,
You're the expert.
no, we both do this equally. But yeah, so it's like definitely a passion of mine. And so ketamine, it's one of those interesting things where it seems like a drug that you could be addicted to, but it can also treat addiction. And we see this with kind of other emerging psychedelics, psilocybin, MDMA, how these things that could be addictive are actually being used to treat addiction. The mechanisms of how that work are somewhat complicated, but ultimately we have real-world clinical evidence to show that this works.
Okay.
And so we're using it to treat things like alcohol, tobacco cessation, opioid addiction is a primary indication for it,
Okay.
because those are things that are difficult to come off of, and a fixed amount of ketamine infusions has been proven to actually improve people's ability to get off those.
So many of the folks in our that are viewing this, maybe they are suffering from addiction, and maybe they've tried the 12-step program and they've
Yeah.
tried other things that really didn't work for them. So would that be a good candidate to come visit with you?
For sure, for sure. The excellent thing about ketamine is we use it for patients that have been refractory to kind of the standard treatments that they've been trying. And so let's say they have done the program and they have tried other things, those are the patients that we really do believe that we can help. We want patients to be able to have a support system outside, and so people that do the 12 steps and go to the meetings, that just adds to the efficacy. So for sure, definitely.
Okay. Let's talk again about your facility and where it is located and how they get in touch with you. Now, one thing that I'm wondering is many people always want to know about insurance and how that comes into play. Is it covered in some capacity?
So the ketamine treatment itself is not yet covered by most insurances. Some are starting to cover it, and I think others will get there with time because the data does show that it really does help people. What we're doing is we are having patients pay up front, and then we use our electronic medical record to generate a super bill that we will submit to the patient's insurance on their behalf, and they can expect to hopefully get a reimbursement. And it's not billing for the ketamine infusion, it's billing for the services like the physician consult and the office visit and the IV placement. We're definitely able to get some reimbursement for patients using our EMR and submitting the super bills.
Okay, great. So when somebody comes to visit you, how long is the consultation?
So the consultation is virtual, the initial one, so they can do it from wherever they are. 30 to 45 minutes is about right.
Okay.
Then they will typically speak with our psychotherapist, who will help them prepare for their first infusion.
All right.
Then they'll come to our office, which is in San Juan Capistrano. And in that office, they can expect to be there for about 90 minutes to 2 hours.
Okay.
40 minutes of that is the infusion, and then there's some processing time both before and afterwards.
Okay.
And then they're driven home, typically by a friend, family member, loved one, things like that.
Now this is an infusion, so it's through a needle.
Correct.
Okay. And then afterwards, what should someone bring someone with them? Are they going to have a feeling that maybe they can't drive?
Yeah. So we recommend that if patients are able to come with a support person, somebody who's there to kind of help them get through the rest of the day, get them home safely, and just be there for them. They can't expect for a couple hours after the infusion to maybe feel a little uneasy on their feet, maybe a little loopy, and you want to make sure you have someone there to help support you through that.
Right. Well, this is really great information. I appreciate it. Very new to us here, and I'm happy that you were able to help us because, you know, many people have thrown in the towel with Western medicine and they don't know where to turn to, so we appreciate the information.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And if you want more information about the ketamine infusion from Renew, you can go to their website, which is renewketamineinfusion.com. We'll be right back. Our movie for today is called Black KK Klansman, and you can see the information there. And the movie today will be at 2 p.m. with subtitles, 6 p.m. without subtitles, sponsored by City of Hope. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our weather, where we are still experiencing some cloudy skies with some rain, and that's not going to let up for a couple of days yet. 55, 47, 56, 44, 53, 40, and then by Thursday, 59, 42, and 60, 44. Have a great day in the Village. We'll be back again tomorrow right here on Village Television at 9 a.m. Bye-bye.
At Laguna Woods Dental Care, our goal is to serve and provide dental services to the residents of Laguna Woods. Dr. Mohsen Mahmood is currently specializing in senior dental care from USC Dental School and has been serving the Laguna Woods community for over 16 years. At Laguna Woods Dental, our top priority is your overall wellness, ensuring your current medications do not affect your oral health. We offer a convenient plan for $250 a year that includes exam, x-rays, and all types of cleanings are covered. Our office is located right outside of gate number 3. Come book your appointment today.